What's up, guys? Pepper Beef 2 Spicy here. How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys are doing alright. Today I'm gonna address a certain topic that is very prevalent when it comes to fighting games. This is the topic of the mentality of people who play fighting games. There are two ways to play a fighting game. It's the normal way, which is the correct way, where, in the normal way, you look at all the tools of your character and of the game. You look at the game's mechanics and you look at the tools of your character, and you use everything you have at your disposal to win, to destroy and defeat your opponent, to come out on top. It seems like, it's the basic thing to do. Self-explanatory. You don't need to tell someone that's how you play a fighting game. You say, hey, pick Ryu and hope you win. Do whatever you can to beat that Chun-Li player. But there is actually another mentality when it comes to playing fighting games, and that is the scrub mentality. The scrub mentality entails the idea that there are rules when it comes to playing fighting games. Now, there are rules. This is true that, everybody's got to have this amount of health, or, the timer always has to be set at 99, or whatever. But when the scrub plays a game, he believes that his rules, which are, not written in stone at all, are the ways to play the game. Let's say we're playing Tekken, right? And I go up to someone with Law, and I do Law's forward 4, 3+4 grab all day. Start combo, kill him 3 times with that grab, do it all 3 rounds, perfect him every time. And he just got destroyed, right? And then after the game, he'll send me a hate message saying, wow, what the hell, you're a terrible player, try beating me without throws, fuck you. He's obviously very, very mad at the fact that he lost. But what he's missing is that he never picked up how to beat me. It's obvious that I'm just going to keep running up to you and doing my forward 4, 3+4 grab, which is a 1+2 break. And if you see that, hey, break 1+2. Easy as that. Stop me. There you go. My whole gameplay got ruined. Now I got to try something else. Big whoop. But the scrub is not going to do that. The scrub is, rather than learning how to defend against that, the scrub is rather just going to say, you're cheap, F you, I'm never playing you ever again, or this game probably. That's where the scrub comes to a halt in their fighting game leveling up, It takes a while to learn a fighting game, even the easy ones. Everybody starts out as a scrub. Everybody, no matter who you're talking about, Justin Wong, Daigo, JDCR, Chris G, every one of them wasn't born to be innate, amazing fighting game players. They went to the arcades, or they played on their console, and they practiced for hours and hours and hours, and eventually they become the great players that they are. Everybody starts out not knowing what they're doing. The thing with scrubs is, while they have an understanding of the game, they limit the amount of tools they can use. As opposed to the normal way to play a game, where you use all the tools at your disposal as well as the game's mechanics, a scrub will believe inherently that there are rules of honor to the game. Now, a game doesn't know honor. It's a machine. The game only acknowledges whether player 1 won or player 1 lost. That means that the game doesn't care whether the opponent used every single low in the book, used every 10 string, used every throw to beat your opponent. And that guy won? Good for him. The game says, hey, you win. Here's 500 money, whatever. The scrub player believes that the tools that an opponent might use to win, whether it be holding back the whole time so that the scrub player cannot open them up, running away with keepaway, just spacing the whole damn game using Hadokens or shooting triple arrows, the scrub will not find a way to beat that. They will just complain that they can't beat it. They just give up right there and then, just say it's cheap and move on to the next game. That's why it's such a hard mentality for some people to accept fighting games the way they are. I'm not saying scrubs are all terrible people and they should all burn in the fire, and that we, the elitists of the fighting game community, will strive forever. I'm saying that anybody can be a good player, but sometimes the barrier is not understanding the game, or doing combos, or having, execution requirements like it's too dexterous. Sometimes the worst kind of barrier for a player is in here. In the barrier, and I mean in the sense that they limit themselves. They deem throws as cheap, so, I'm never gonna throw, that's too cheap. Or, you know, I'm not going to learn how to defend against that throw. That's cheap. I'm not going to play people who throw. They're preventing them from growing within the game. Let's say two friends play Tekken, right? And I play my friend, and I just, you know, I use Law's down back 4 all the time. Dragon Tail for days, and he gets really pissed off at it. Now that night, he goes home, and he goes to training mode, and he recognizes Law's down back 4 a lot of times, and then he finds out that he can punish it for a lot of damage. So, you know, next day, comes over, we play, and he blocks down back 4, and he punishes it with a launcher, goes into a juggle combo, I lose 50% of my HP, I'm never doing Dragon Tail ever again. There you go. Simple as that. What he thought was very frustrating and cheap suddenly became beatable. And now that I can't use down back 4 anymore against him, I have to find new tactics to beat this guy. And from those new tactics, I'll start winning. And then he'll find new tactics to beat those tactics. And it'll just keep scaffolding until we use tactics that are very difficult to counter, or use said tactics in a situation where he's not looking to counter them. And when we've reached that level, we've become already really, really great players because we've spent so long playing the game that our level of play is so much higher. And when you get to that level, the amount of stuff that you can think about when it comes to strategy, what moves to use, thinking about how your opponent plays, what character he chooses, the game is so much bigger in depth. There's so much more things to do. It makes the game last a lot longer for your enjoyment, and it makes the game way more fun. Now, I'm thinking that some people might say, well, okay, maybe those guys are super serious, they want to be the best ever, they go to tournaments, and they compete, and, you know, they're way too serious about this. I'm just a casual, I don't really care, I just want to play to win. I mean, I want to play for fun. And I'm fine with that mentality. And not everybody who touches a fighting game has to be super serious competitive. I don't agree with that. I think some people should play for fun. Otherwise, everyone would just be douchebags with each other and not share any tech or anything like that. There wouldn't be communities because everyone's just trying to kill each other. You don't have to be like that. I compete, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be the best Tekken player ever. I just play because it's fun. I play for fun, even though when I go into a fighting game, when I play a match, I'm going to play to win. Although my end game goal is not to become the best, it's just to have fun. Which is ironic in the sense that playing to win is actually playing for fun, unless, of course, you actually play just to become the best, which is very few people, but they do exist. When you look at the options of someone who has that many tools at their disposal, they understand how to use them, it's so much more fun because there are so many more options to explore. Now, a scrub player, when he's saying, I'm just playing for fun, that's all fun and well if you don't know how to play a game and you're just mashing buttons, you're just, you know, doing this all day, and, you know, you're having fun with that. That's cool if you're having fun with that, but in my opinion, it doesn't really last that long. When someone plays a fighting game and they don't know what they're doing, it's fun because they're playing with their friends, or they don't know what they're doing, and, you know, everyone's getting hit, and it's going all over the place, and it's crazy, and it's wild. But that kind of fun, in my opinion, doesn't last very long. Because you didn't really learn anything other than matching tools. Where the real development starts is where somebody finds a random move. They don't know how they did it, and they suddenly figure out how to do it that's very cheap. A while ago, I had a party, and two of my friends were playing Marvel vs. Capcom 3. They didn't know anything about Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they didn't know anything about the game, but one of my friends picked Hulk. Now, Hulk's heavy attack is an armored move that's decently fast, and if you don't know what an armored move is a move that there's a certain amount of time where said move is invulnerable to being stopped. They'll still take damage, but the move will not stop. Now, Hulk's heavy attack is a move like that. It's an armored move. Now, he figured that move out, and he spammed it, and he kept beating my other friend, and my other friend is getting pretty frustrated, and the first thing he thought of was, that's cheap. Screw that. Screw Hulk. He's a cheap-ass character. Now, if my friend was more serious about, you know, defeating him, he would have gone home that night, when training mode, find that Hulk's H is actually unsafe, and bait it out, and use multiple hit moves to break through the armor, or just space Hulk out so that you can't, you know, so that Hulk can never get the opportunity to use that heavy attack. That's developing the game. But the fun just stopped right there because they're playing at a level where you cannot grow. where it just stops right here, and the only fun you're gonna get is mashing, and even that gets pretty boring after a while. In my opinion, if you want to play for fun, learn the game. It only just makes it much more understandable. You can have so many options. There are a lot of ways to explore the game, especially if it's a really great fighting game. And a really great fighting game has a lot of depth, a lot of options that all players can do for their characters. And a game like that, where there are so many things to do, it makes a fighting game a lot more fun than it seems to people who take it at face value. Anybody can be good as long as they realize their mistakes, they correct them, they find out, how to win, and etc., etc., etc. Just keep building. Taking away the mentality that there are rules, that there are fake rules that you put up that you think matter. That doesn't really flow when it matters to everyone else. Let's take boxing, for example. Now, Manny Pacquiao is one of the best boxers of our generation, right? And when he fought one of the best British boxers, Ricky Hatton, he knocked him out in the second round with a sharp left hook. Now, that left hook came really, really fast, and it knocked out Ricky Hatton, or rather TKO'd him, and that was the round. That was the win. That was undisputed that Pacquiao definitely won right then and there. By judges, by the fans, by even Ricky Hatton himself. He won. That's it. Now, the scrub mentality would say that, damn, Manny Pacquiao's left hook is way too cheap because it's way too fast and he's way too strong. That's too cheap. So, let's say that it's too cheap, right? So, that's like, if the boxing commission took the scrub mentality, they would go out to Manny Pacquiao and they would say, hey, Manny Pacquiao, you can't use your left hook anymore. Sorry, but it's just way too cheap. Sorry. And Manny Pacquiao, I'm pretty sure he would just quit boxing right then and there. He would throw in the towel, throw in his gloves, and just go back to being a governor in the Philippines. Now, I'm pretty sure that's not the way boxing is supposed to be played. I mean, fought, but whatever. That limiting your tools is only playing half the game. Why would you want to play less of the game? It doesn't make much sense when you think about it. There are certain limitations to using tools. Let's take, for another example, in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, there was a glitch where if you use a super, right, and then you did another super that would tag into your partner. Now, if your partner's super was a super that was not an attack super, for example, if you did Spencer's bionic arm, right, and you DHC'd, which is a delayed hyper combo, which is the term for doing another super into another super, which will tag into your partner. If you DHC'd into Dante's Devil Trigger, now Dante's Devil Trigger does not do any damage. It just turns Dante into a different form where he has more tools available to him than his regular form. Now, Dante's Devil Trigger is the kind of super that is required for the DHC glitch. And what is the DHC glitch? The DHC glitch is if you DHC into a super that does not do any damage, like Dante's Devil Trigger, it would reset the hit stun deterioration of the opponent. Now, that would mean, in broad sense, that the opponent can be comboed longer than normally. Now, this was not something that was broken. Game-changing, yes, but it wasn't something that was broken because a lot of characters can do it, and it gave the game more depth. It made a lot more options explorable. It made it so that certain characters were better than people thought they were. It created more opportunities for combos. It gave people ideas for setups. It gave people more cautiousness about getting hit by a combo. It made people more thoughts about their team composition, whether they could do DHC combos or not, how much meter would it require, how easy were they, how powerful were they. It was beneficial for the game as a whole. Everybody was doing it. It just made the game a lot more explorable. The game had depth. It was a glitch. Yeah, it was a glitch. But it wasn't horrible, It didn't make something unbeatable. It was just something that people could do. And it was an option you could explore, and if you want to use it, go ahead. That is opposed to something else, which is too cheap. Now, a lot of people tell you in the fighting game community, cheap is just another word for good. Now, that's true to an extent. That, for example, Lay's 50-50 stances are pretty cheap. There's no really way to find out what moves he's doing, just have to react. And since all the moves from his stances are really, really, really fast, there's no way to react to them. It's cheap, but it's not game-breaking. It's not something that makes Lay win 99% of the time. In contrast to that, the too cheapness is where it comes to something that's completely game-breaking. Let's go back to boxing for a second. Now, in boxing, you're not really allowed to hit below the belt. Something of going too cheap would be, let's say you're boxing someone, and then you just decide, I'm going to punch them in the balls, and they're not wearing a cup. Let's say, for the example, they're not wearing a cup. Punch him in the balls, the guy goes down, say, hey, I knocked him out, he's keeling over, he's on the floor, he's down longer than 10 seconds, I definitely won. But, you're breaking the rules. That's breaking the literal rules of the game. Not the rules that the scrub set up. Those rules that the scrub set up are the rules that he thinks define the game, not the actual rules of the game. These rules exist, unlike the fictitious rules that the scrub seems to believe in. Something like that, in compared to a fighting game, is like Algol's in Soul Calibur 4's Infinite Combo. Now, Algol in general was already a really good character. He was really strong in his tracking moves, he did a lot of damage, he had decent range, his combos were really strong, he had a lot of ring-out potential. Algol was really good. But what pushed him over the edge was not only did he have projectiles, which made it very difficult to sidestep in that game, but he had a combo that could kill every character from the game from 100% health to 0. As long as you didn't drop the combo in between, you could guarantee to kill someone with one combo. Now, in a game like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, killing someone with one combo is accepted, because a lot of characters can do it, and a lot of teams can do it. It's something that's almost required at high-level play. But in Soul Calibur, combos aren't as big a deal as they are in other games. They're a factor, no doubt, but they don't have as much emphasis in that game as opposed to other games. In Soul Calibur, even the highest damaging combos will only take off at best 40 to 50% of someone's HP bar, and that's pushing it. Like for example, in Soul Calibur 4, Hilde's death combo did 50% of your HP, along with a really strong ring-out potential, but that's another story. Algol's glitchy mechanic of being able to juggle someone infinitely with his bubbles, along with resetting hit stun, made it so that Algol was breaking the game. He was doing something that no other character could compete with. Like, for example, not only is Algol really good, but he has something that no one else can do. Two things that no one else can do, and one of them, the infinite combo, something that nobody in the game even comes close to competing with. This made it so that Algol was a candidate to be banned, and I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure he was banned in some tournaments, and from time to time he was banned and unbanned by the community. Algol was a very controversial character in Soul Calibur 4. This goes along with Hilde, Hilde was just like Algol, an A+ character. Amazing range, really safe moves. She could guard crush a lot of stuff, but what made Hilde really strong was the strongest combo in the game that did 50% of someone's HP bar, known as the Doom combo. And not only did it did half health, but it carried someone across the stage almost completely. On the raft stage in the Ostereinberg Castle stage, it's very advantageous for Hilde, because Hilde, pretty much as soon as she lands a Doom combo, there's a very high chance she's gonna ring someone out. Characters like that are just way too good to even for other characters to compete with them. They're candidates for something that is too cheap. Or game-breaking glitches like Algol's Infinite. You know, they're candidates for being banned. That's where the factor of something that is too cheap comes into. But if there is something like, let's say, Kazuya from Tekken, right? He is a really good character. He is solid top tier. But he's not banned. Why? Because, well, he requires a lot of execution and a lot of, spacing. You need to be really solid with movement to be really good with Kazuya and all the Mishimas in general. You need to land those electrics every single time. You need a really consistent execution. There are, a lot of factors that go into playing Kazuya to his perfectness. And even then, when Kazuya is playing perfect, it's not game-breaking. You can still beat him. It's just, he's just very good. It's just difficult to beat. Simple as that. Before I go on, I want to mention David Serlin's article, Play to Win, and his books, Play to Win. Um, they're pretty much the basis for the mentality of going into fighting games. Um, Serlin's explanation of the scrub is really good, and I highly recommend everybody who even plays fighting game once or twice, or just bored, might as well read it, because it pretty much defines why the difference between players who know what they're doing and people who just complain. You'll never ever get better at any fighting game if you just say, this is way too cheap, I can't win, there's nothing I can do about it, I'm just gonna stop playing, or I'm only gonna play with people who do the same things I do. That's not growing as a player, that's just remaining stagnant. You remain at a low level stance. You're not gonna enjoy the game to a fullest until you break that mental idea that there's things that are gonna cause problems for you, that there are things that require a little bit more thought than just picking up the game once to beat. And people abandon those mentalities as soon as they go into train mode and they figure out, alright, what's my problem, what am I having trouble with, and how do I stop that? As soon as they start thinking that way, they are no longer a scrub in my book. Even if they are still really bad and they can't do combos and their idea of spacing is really bad, they may be a bad player, but at least they're not a scrub. Being a scrub, in my opinion, is worse than being someone who's not very good at a particular fighting game. I don't mean to say that to really hurt people, but I'm saying that it's kind of the scrub's fault for putting those mental barriers in place. They don't, by putting those mental blocks in place, they don't grow. They don't grow as a player, they don't grow enjoying the game, they don't grow in understanding the game. And like I said earlier, it's not really about being the best ever or being super highly competitive. It's about making the game more fun, more explorable, more understandable, and looking at your options and making the game a lot more enjoyable and making it last longer. And with that being said, I think that's most of what I wanted to cover. Because from time to time, I will see comments saying that, oh man, I can't believe this player just threw me all day, or wow, that guy's so cheap, all he did was the same move. Well, I'm sorry, but there are ways to defend against that. And saying something is cheap is just, I'm sorry, unless it's literally game-breaking and game-destroying, then there are ways to defend against it, I'm pretty sure. And there are ways to stop it. And all you have to do is just go figure out how to do it, and you're set to go, pretty much. Their fictional rules of don't throw, don't low, don't do anything cheap, it's because they believe that's not playing fair. What is playing fair exactly? Playing with the same tools that your opponent has without breaking the rules. And like I mentioned, breaking the rules is doing something outside the boundaries of the game that allows. For example, like Algo's Infinite, and like the analogy I use, punching someone in the balls in boxing. Or even a bigger analogy to that is, let's say you're playing someone, right, and you're losing, and you just get up from your chair and you push him in the middle of his combo. Obviously, that's not cool. That's super freaking cheating. That's not cool at all. But let's say in the game, someone keeps throwing you, and you're calling that cheap. That's not exactly cheap because, hey, you can do that to me too. Or they low you, and it's like, hey, you have that tool too, why don't you do it? Limiting factor is really what makes the scrubs so very, low in there. And the fact that, they want to stick to this whole don't throw, don't low, don't do setups, don't do combos is really cheap, is because they want to stick to this honor code, this illusionary honor code, that the game has some kind of honor code that they came up with, and the whole honor code kind of thing is like, dude, the game doesn't have an honor code. Someone's fighting, right? And they're playing against Nemesis, right? Nemesis in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is, like most heavy, susceptible to being kept out. Now, if the scrub will fight that, and he's just gonna keep going in. He doesn't care. He's just gonna keep going into Nemesis. And Nemesis loves when people go in on him, He has plenty of defensive options. and he has keep out tools. Now, if the scrub player was smart, he'd start playing keepaway. But in his mind, playing keepaway, that is spacing someone, like making sure they don't come close and firing projectiles at them, if it's a projectile game, is too cheap. That's not part of the game. I'm not gonna play that. Well, alright, if you're gonna play like that, then you're just gonna let Nemesis destroy you because you're playing right into his hands. And the way to beat him, you're preventing yourself from using that way to beat him. You know, and scrubs will say like, oh man, playing a ranged game or turtling, just blocking all day, man, that's such like a pussy way to play. In contrary, I think that's more commendable than just going in ham and just balls to the wall, no thought, no nothing, going in, when it's a lot better option to stay away. And if someone can defend all day against a player's attacks, I commend that. That's smart blocking, that's good reactions, that's not being cheap, that's just being a good player. That's just, you know, looking at your options and beating. It's like, someone blocks all day, and the other guy gets pissed because he can't open him up. And you're like, dude, stop blocking. And the other guy is just gonna go, why would I stop blocking? That's just gonna make me lose. Why would I want to lose? Pretty much, guys, that is it for you. Alright, so, that was my little talk. And, thank you guys for watching. If you really enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it. I read all the comments, even if you're just a troll. And, I'll see you guys later.